All right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next topic isn't so much of a confirmed thing, but I think more just something that's been speculated, but I wanted to touch on because I think it's kind of interesting. So it seems like Marvel has been slowly learning the lessons that they needed to learn from their early, let's say, television failures. And I say failures lightly. It's not like, every single show that they've done has been a disaster, but obviously we've seen the growing pains of a studio that's really not known how to make proper television shows. And so we've gotten shows such as Secret Invasion, we've gotten shows like a She-Hulk or whatever that perhaps were really lackluster and not living up to expectations. Even a Loki season 1 for me personally was disappointing because it just didn't feel like it was a complete show and it just felt more setup-y for the rest of the MCU. Now, and we'll talk about Loki season 1 and what season 2 did right to fix it in just a second. But Marvel has made a lot of mistakes when it comes to their television. I think they're finally beginning to learn with it. Daredevil Born Again looks like a brilliant step in the right direction. I think they finally understand you need showrunners, you need proper people behind the helm, you need storytelling that feels complete and not just setting up other things. And so it's really interesting to see how the MCU moves forward with their television shows from here. That being said, there are a couple shows that were, one was received kind of tepidly, and the other was, actually pretty well received by critics and fans alike. That doesn't mean that this show doesn't have its problems, but I think that the second show also had a lot of potential moving forward. So those two shows being Moon Knight and Miss Marvel. But these shows were really under the problem of the old Disney regime where you just have to pump out content as fast as possible, as much as possible. And so, you were digging deep into the archives. And I'm not saying that these aren't important characters. I'm just saying that I think normally perhaps we would have gotten a Miss Marvel movie instead with, Captain Marvel. Like we would have gotten a movie like The Marvels first, and then dove into Miss Marvel as a character herself, and who knows about Moon Knight as a character. It just kind of feels like we're reaching for as many side characters as we possibly could. That being said, these shows presented interesting concepts, and now that Marvel is sort of beginning to fix their television division, I wonder what this will, bode for the future. And so with that, there were some rumors coming out over the past little bit that Marvel is looking to do a Moon Knight season 2 and a Miss Marvel season 2. So what this segment of the podcast is not me saying, and not me wanting to talk about the fact that there's confirmation that Moon Knight Season 2 is happening and Miss Marvel Season 2 is happening. That's not at all what I'm trying to say, because these are just rumors still so far. And, this isn't a news segment in this particular instance, so much as it is just me wanting to take the opportunity to talk about what a Moon Knight Season 2 would look like and what a Miss Marvel Season 2 would look like. Because I think that these are both characters that have immense potential in the MCU, and it's really just not been realized yet. So what I thought I'd do is go through both Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel, and go through 4 separate points on what I hope and what I expect to happen for each respective season 2, if they do in fact happen. Because I think, again, with the actors that they got, with the characters themselves, there is just so much potential to expand the universe, expand these characters, and give a satisfying story as well. So let's start out with Moon Knight, a show that if you watch my recent Phase 4 rewatch, you'll know that I wasn't super thrilled by. I think that it had its moments for sure, but it wasn't my favorite show, and it definitely left a lot to be desired at the end. So here's what I would do to here's what I would do, or here's what I would want from a season 2 storyline and season 2 that revolves around Moon Knight. The first thing is that I would love to see Jake Lockley as the villain. This is something that I talked about in my video where I had where I rewrote Phase 4 of the MCU, and where I was talking about all the things that I wanted to have happen with these new projects. And one of the things that I talked about is having Jake Lockley be the villain, because I think that was sort of the semi-intention of the end of Moon Knight, but they really never realized it, and they just kind of left it as a cliffhanger, which I think is kind of lame. So I think that Jake Lockley being that villainous personality is something that we should definitely be looking at here as we go along. Now, that kind of leads me to my second point here, which is, look, Moon Knight Season 1, to me personally, it wasn't as incomplete as Loki Season 1 was, but it still had a lot of things that, kind of felt like they just set them up and then they didn't really want to pay them off, including the Jake Lockley twist at the end. So here's what I would want. just given the Moon Knight season 1 that we actually did have. Let's follow the template of Loki season 2, because let's be honest, right? Loki season 2 is essentially Loki season 1 part 2. It's not actually a season 2. You could put those two seasons back to back and you wouldn't notice a single thing. It would be basically one fine, if not, good season of television, and you just wouldn't notice. And if someone told you, hey, they released these two seasons, the first 6 episodes and the second 6 episodes separately, and they called them separate seasons, you might be a little bit confused, right? And so what I'm hoping is that Moon Knight season 2 can really pick up where the first season left off with Jake Lockley and just finish the story that was being told, right? Because I think I think that would just go a long way to really helping this character feel more complete in the MCU proper. So those are my first 2 points, just really, dealing with Jake Lockley and then, following the formula that Loki season 2 kind of set out, I think somewhat successfully, actually. And then the third thing is I would, really love to see other characters in there. I think that let's start building Moon Knight up to a team, because look, I think it's fine to have these MCU characters more isolated in their own little pockets, their own little corners. Doesn't mean that they should just be completely isolated, right? I think that, let's have... I've been championing Midnight Suns for a long time because it would really bring together a lot of characters that we haven't been talking about, a lot of characters we haven't seen in the MCU in a long time. And I would just really love to see characters like Man-Thing and Blade and whatever. But even so, maybe it's not Midnight Suns, maybe it's Dark Avengers, maybe it's just regular Avengers. Let's just start having him build towards something other than just him on his own adventures, right? I think that would be really fun. And the fourth thing is just, I think, something that's a little bit more obvious here. It's one of the big strengths of the first season of Moon Knight, and it's something where if you did do season 2 of Moon Knight, I think this is the only reason that you would do a second season of Moon Knight, and that is to dig into Oscar Isaac and his talents, because Oscar Isaac is just a tremendous actor. There are so few actors that can embody characters as well as Oscar Isaac, and I think it's just such a tremendous testament to who he is and how good of an actor that he is. I really think that, look, if you're going to do this, you're going to do this right. And you're going to bring back Oscar Isaac, and you're going to make sure that it's worth every single penny that you spend on this actor, because he is just phenomenal. I think that, not to say that he was wasted in season 1, but I think that, I think that there was a lot more that could have been done with that character if we had really taken the time to have written a really robust story. And so I think especially leaning into the elements that worked in episode 5 of season 1, for example, the one where he goes through his memories and his trauma, I think that's the Oscar Isaac that we really need to dig into here in this potential second season of Moon Knight. Speaking of potential second seasons, so let's talk about Ms. Marvel. And it's sort of a similar thing here, right? But I think that there are a lot of things that I deal with, moving forward with a second season of Ms. Marvel, now that she's established in the MCU. It's a little bit different than Moon Knight because she is actually in the MCU. Well, not that Moon Knight isn't in the MCU, but she is interconnected into the MCU. There are things that have happened to this character that place her firmly in the crosshairs of those who would be tackling other characters in the MCU and the other Avengers. And so it's a little bit different. But at the same time, what I also want to do is just like, with my second season of Moon Knight predictions and expectations, would love to keep it rooted in what we got in season 1 and her appearance in the Marvels, and really push this character forward to new heights. So the first thing that I would like to do in a season 2 is just keep it rooted in her friends and family. It doesn't have to be in Jersey, although I would love for it to be in Jersey, but let's bring back Bruno, let's bring back Nakia, and let's just really, dig into the family aspects, because those were the best things about the first season, was the family. I think that if you continue to make sure that the family is the core emotion of this series and of this character, then you're going to go a long way to making it successful. And we saw that a bit in the Marvels, a film that, wasn't the best film in the MCU, but definitely had its bright spots with Kamala Khan and with her family. Second thing is that, yes, let's explore the Bengals, because the Bengals are interesting, if not a little bit confusing, up until this point. And I want to explore them. I want to see, what they're made out of, what the powers actually do, interdimensional traveling, time traveling. I mean, you don't have to touch on all of these different things, but I think that there is something to be said about, really working with what we've been given in the first season and just trying to give us a little bit more of an explanation as to what's going on in that regard. So I think that's going to be something that will hopefully be very helpful as well. Third thing is just kind of like Moon Knight, but Moon Knight was a little bit different, like I said, because he hasn't been a part of the main adventures of the MCU, whatever that means at this point. But let's explore the ramifications of her adventures, because she was in space. She saw somebody go through a rift in dimensions and exit the multiverse in a different place. Let's explore what that means now that she's kind of grounded in Jersey City. It can almost be like a Spider-Man Homecoming situation where Peter Parker went to Berlin, and then he kind of had to go back home to high school, and I think that is something that we should definitely be dealing with and definitely be seeing with a character like Kamala Khan, who is so eager to just make the best impression and be the best version of herself. I think that is something that is worth exploring as well. And finally, the last thing I want to see here is that I want to see her grow and mature as a character, which is not to say that she, the character of Kamala Khan isn't mature, but what we love about her is this, sort of giddy, childish energy, and I think that we should definitely keep that. But at the same time, like I've been talking about, this is a character who has gone through things now, right? She's been to space. She's seen a lot of things that no high school, student would be, I think, mentally capable of handling. But I think that now that she's gone through these things, and she has obviously way more fortitude than any regular human being, we want to see what this does to her. We want to see how this affects her, how this makes her see the world differently. Maybe it doesn't make her see the world differently, and how it reshapes her perspective as well. I think that is a very important point moving forward. So yeah, I think those are the 4 things each for both Moon Knight and Miss Marvel that I would be really excited to see for a potential second season. Again, I think these are 2 characters that have not necessarily been wasted, but we haven't seen enough of them, and I definitely like to see 2 more seasons, one from Moon Knight and one from Miss Marvel, if we can get them, because again, I think that these are characters with such raw potential, especially with the actors portraying them as well. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you hope for in a Moon Knight season 2? What do you hope for in a Miss Marvel season 2? And hopefully we'll get them, and hopefully they will be as amazing as we want.